Hi, this is Eric Jackson here with you. You know, I'm used to saying good evening when I start things off on the radio, but today we're talking about Eric in the afternoon, something new that we're starting. We're at the Boston Public Library in the WGBH studios there at the library, and we're starting what I hope will be the first of many afternoons of music and conversation from the Boston Public Library, bringing you conversation and music from some of the wonderful jazz musicians that are active today. It's my pleasure today to be joined by the wonderful pianist Christian Sands. Christian, give us one to open up, please. That's our guest, Christian Sands, sitting there at the piano, playing a tune for us to get things started off on this. As I said, we're calling Eric in the afternoon. Christian, it's great to have you here, man.
It's great to be here.
Too.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Two questions came to mind immediately. One, what's it like playing an electric keyboard? Because you don't usually play an electric keyboard.
Well, playing electric keyboard, I'm trying not to break it.
Okay.
It's so small.
Good.
But, it's always fun because, you have these different sounds and you have these different ways of playing it, And so I like playing it sometimes, because you can do a whole bunch of different things with it. So, yeah.
We were, before we went on the air, we were talking about Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
And I remember when Herbie had his Rhodes, in between sets, he would have to bring out a screwdriver or something, and tune up something on the keyboard.
Right, it's like tuning up a car, So, yeah.
The other thing I thought about too immediately is you're playing solo. How often do you play solo, and what do you think about playing solo?
Well, I try to play solo as much as possible. I mean, from either doing tours or doing a one-off gig. But solo is great because the world is yours when you're playing. You can kind of go anywhere, you can kind of do anything, and you just are open to your own ideas, and so you kind of really dive into some different things, and it's really self-reflective too.
But I've heard other musicians say that you're so exposed when you're doing that, which is sort of the flip side of what you were just saying.
Yeah, I mean, because you're very exposed, but I like that feeling because it's like you're there by yourself, and you are there, and you're just kind of taking all the inspiration in, whether it's the coffee machine that's over here that we're hearing, or but you're always listening to different things, whether it's the audience. So I mean, it's solo, but for me, solo means that you're open to everything.
Okay, good. I read, I think it was on your website today, you started playing piano at 4, and then you wrote your first composition at 5 or something like that?
Yes. I can't remember what the song was called. I think it was called "My Friends and Me" or something something like that. But I officially started lessons at 4. I was playing since I was 1. I used to have a small piano, like an upright little celeste about this big, which I still have. And I kind of started on that, and the story goes, because I can't remember, but the story goes, instead of playing like this, I would actually play like this, which is interesting. So my parents put me in piano lessons, and I started when I was about 4. It took about a year to find a teacher, but I started when I was about 4 years old.
Was there ever a time when they had to force you to practice?
No. If anything, they had to stop me from practicing.
Really?
Because I liked it so much, because I've done it since I was a kid. And so I used to like creating. I used to also, when I was younger, play with Legos, draw, paint. And so I always like to create, And my parents are very creative. So any chance I could to create was fun. And so I really got a chance to do that on the piano. So
do you still draw or paint now?
I do when I can. When I get some time, I try to, but mostly it's just the piano.
Do you see a connection between your paintings and your music?
Yeah, I mean, because one is it's reflective, but also it really gets you to think about different things. Whether you're frustrated or whether you're tired or whether you're excited about something. And you paint your emotions, you paint your feelings. So with the instrument, you do the exact same thing. So they're both kind of go hand in hand.
I don't know if you know, the great Duke Ellington turned down a scholarship to Pratt.
Which is amazing.
Right. But he did all these wonderful songs that he called portraits, too, as a matter of fact.
Right, exactly. Which he did exactly that. He painted with his music. So.
Right. So how did you get started on your musical road after you were 4 or 5?
Well, I mean, I was taking classical lessons, and then but I would improvise on all the classical pieces. And
what did your teachers think about that?
Well, they didn't like it.
Right.
So the last classical teacher I had, before I was in college, the last one I had when I was younger, told my parents to put me in jazz studies, basically, because I like to improvise and all that. And so she felt that jazz would probably be more my lane to be in. Okay. And so I started jazz when I was about 7.
That early?
It took a little, so it was quick. And so I started jazz when I was about 7, and, ever since then, I've just been in that kind of field. I mean, I still do classical as well, but jazz just had this hold on me. I grew up listening to it in the house. My father would play Miles Davis or Grover Washington Jr., he played a whole bunch of stuff, Duke Ellington, Thelonious Monk, as well as, classical music as well, Mozart. My mother loved Mozart, so, she used to play a lot of that.
Would you ever do a project that focused more on classical side?
Probably, yeah. If somebody asked me nicely, then I might.
So you're not one of the as they're called, the jazz snobs?
No. Because my thing is jazz comes from classical music. I mean, it's also Americans' classical music. It is from that. It's also with the African traditions and all that. But harmony-wise, and there's just a lot of information in classical music that you can kind of pull from too. So I think they both go hand in hand, and so especially on piano. There'll probably be a project coming up in the future.
I don't know if you have students, but if you do have students, do you, in some sort of way, encourage them to deal with classical music?
I do. I encourage them to find out what the repertoire is for piano, whether that's classical, whether that's blues, boogie woogie, whether that's Dixieland, whether that's stride, whether that's ragtime, you know.
Have you listened to all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have.
Okay,
You know,
good.
because, you know, and especially, you know, or country western style piano, that's hard, first of all. A lot of people don't understand that. That's a really hard thing to do because it's such a different time feel. It's such a different way of playing, you know.
Really?
It's a cross between, you know, stride and boogie woogie, but then it's not exactly that, you know. And so, and each thing is very similar, but they have these differences, you know, which are really interesting that make the genres really nice. So I try to encourage my students to check out all that, you know, and just get information, you know, see what you like, see what you don't like, see what you can play, and if you can't play something, figure out why you can't play that, and then try to figure out how to play it.
Right,
you know?
right.
Because the more you learn, the more you, you know, you can use in this music called jazz.
Okay. I think I first became familiar with you from your days with Christian McBride. As I used to say, there's two Christians in this band.
Right.
You know? Had you played with any other well-known musicians before you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to play with Rufus Reed when I was younger, every once in a while, you know. I've played with, my first ever jazz musician I've ever played with, funny enough, was Clark Terry.
Really?
And Frank West. They did a...
that's going to school.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to school.
You know, they did a concert at Yale at Sprague Hall there, and they performed on a Friday night, I believe, as a part of the Duke Ellington series that the great Willie Ruff put on, you know.
Sure.
And so they did the concert. Then the next day, they had a master class. And so the master class, you know, all these people are showing up. And so I showed up with my father and my brother. I think my brother was maybe 2 at the time or something like that, Ryan.
Okay.
You know, and so they asked people to come up and play. And so I had just started, you know, playing jazz, and I started, you know, learning the blues and all that kind of stuff. And so I went on the stage with Clark Terry. He's like, oh, so what do you want to play? I was like, you know, we'll play a blues. And so he's like, okay, well, let me start first, and then you join in. And so he grabbed the trumpet and the flugelhorn at the same time and played, and then I just followed him, and then we went into some other stuff, and then somehow we went into Round Midnight, and then Frank West told me I was playing it wrong.
Really?
Oh, but it was great, but because that's how you learn, you know.
Right,
and so that's how I learned how to play, you know. So from the master classes, or from sitting in at gigs, you know, or growing up in New Haven, you know, in the New Haven Jazz Festival or the Arts and Ideas Festival, and being around musicians and musicians saying, hey, do you want to play? And so you go on stage and play with them, you know. And so that was kind of my upbringing of playing.
But the two of the 3 musicians four musicians you mentioned were strong bass players.
Yeah.
For a piano player, that seems
It's
like,
interesting.
right?
Like a lot of my training, if you want to say, has been with bass players, Rufus Reed or Christian McBride, or you know, Derek Hodge. You know, I was with him for a little while too. And I love bass players. You know, Ben Williams. You know, there's a whole bunch of bass players I just like playing with. You know, even though I have a special relationship with drums because my brother's a drummer, but yeah, I could think the trio format, I just have a special relationship with just bass and drums. So
Right.
You know.
But you have recorded with guitar. Did you were horns on your CD?
Yeah. The last one,
on
with
Reach?
guitar, yeah.
Were there horns on there too?
Yes, there was Marcus Strickland was on tenor saxophone.
Okay.
And
So you have no problem though stretching,
No, not at all.
expanding the group too.
Not at all. You know, I think like you were talking about with Duke Ellington, you know, with the with painting, you know, you want to add different colors to it, which is why I decided to use guitar, because guitar has so many different colors that the piano has, but they are different. They're a little bit different. They're very similar, you know, because they're all string instruments, but they're different because the timbres and all that, and just how people play them.
Right. You say you got a chance to play with your brother. Do you get a chance to play with him often?
I do. Last year he did his first tour with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
which was great, and he stole the show.
Really?
Which was great. Which I expected anyway, because he's so good, and you know, and he has the big afro too. So if those of you that ever see him, you'll see this big afro and this guy on drums, and that's my brother. So he's also doing some touring with me this summer. He's coming with me to, I think we're going to China, and so this will be his first time going to China. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, he's excellent. You know, his birthday yesterday, so happy 24, Ryan. You know, and you know, he's amazing. So I try to get him when I can get him. Well, I can afford him anyway.
I will say happy birthday to Ryan because, as you know, Christian, he took a class with me at
Right,
Northeastern.
right.
He was in my class.
Right.
He was cross-registered. He was attending
Right.
at a conservatory,
Yeah.
but he cross-registered to take a class with me at Northeastern. too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, your first CD that came out as a leader was Reach? Was that the first?
My first CD was Footprints, and I think I was 11
Oh,
11 years old.
no wonder I don't know about that one. No,
Right. So yeah, I was 11 years old. I mean, I had a few, but this is the first. Reach is the first project I've ever done on a major label.
Okay, I know. I want to talk about Footprints.
Oh,
for
you
a
want to talk
second.
about Footprints? Okay. Well, Footprints was a trio record, and it was with these great musicians and some of my teachers at the time, Jesse Hameen on
Cheese.
yeah, Cheese, yeah. And Jeff Fuller on bass there, you know.
Okay,
And you know, basically what it was just a documentation of where I was at that time, you know, at 11 years old, just what am I doing, you know, and just kind of something for us, you know, my family and just that, you know, and maybe a few aunts and uncles, and you know, that was about it.
So is it
And
available?
then
Can somebody buy it?
It is. It might be available. I mean, you
Okay.
might.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're sold out, so you know we don't have any more. However, you might be able to find a copy,
Okay.
or something like that, you know. And so basically, you know, that CD, you know, a couple people heard it and they were like, "Well, we want some more. We want some more." So we printed up some more. You know, me and my mother, my father, we just kind of did this ourselves, and then from there went Harmonia, which is the second CD. From there went, you know, Rising, which was the third CD, and then from there, you know,
Really?
so it was a whole bunch of stuff
Okay.
tucked away.
Now, when you, I don't know if you've had the chance to listen to it, that first one I say lately, but I'm curious if you have, what you thought about it.
I might, you know, because I haven't heard it lately, but I did listen to it last year when I was actually making Reach, just to get some inspiration of just kind of where I came from. You know, 'cause that was the whole point of the CD anyway, you know, and you know, some interesting things that I think I was working on that I kind of stepped away from, you know, and then some things that, you know, there were some early developments. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I was working that out, and now I have an extended version of that now.
You know, we talked about Herbie Hancock earlier today,
Right.
and Herbie wrote a classical piece when he was 11 years old, and I got a chance to talk to him once, and I asked him about it. I said, what about that early piece? Have you heard it late? He said, yeah, man, I just pulled it out recently, and he said, I just laughed.
Right.
I just laughed.
Right. I mean, because it's funny because it's almost like watching a home video of yourself. You know, when you were, you know, your mother, your father is taking this video, and you're doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you know, it's like or like, you know, like the, you know, or videos of you pretending to be, you know, Elvis or Michael Jackson or something like that when you're a kid. It's the same thing because you have this just imagination that you're just running with.
Right.
You know, and it's exactly that, you know. And sometimes you hit the mark, sometimes you miss it, but you're just having so much fun that you have to laugh about it. You know?
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Were there some piano players that you loved to listen to when you were younger and growing up?
Yeah, Thelonious Monk was my go-to, you know, because he was just such a force in the house. You know, I used to listen to him all the time. And the first big band record I ever had was actually Thelonious Monk. It was not the Town Hall concert, but it was the one with the Oliver Nelson big band, which was amazing.
Right.
You know, and then it was Town Hall, and then it was, you know, everything else, you know. And so I absolutely love Thelonious Monk. He's like my backbone.
What did you say that you took away from listening to Monk?
Man, well, so many different things. Humor, just having fun with music, being able to be fearless, because Monk was fearless when he played. You know, he would play these things, you know, these harmonies, and especially during that time, like no one else was really doing it like that. Maybe, you know, Tatum was, you know, early on, you know, Tatum was doing all this abstract harmony and, you know, doing these little things and little rubs with chords and, you know, but Monk was kind of an extension of that, you know, and so he would come up with it, or patience. He also had a certain patience about his playing, you know, because he would stay on a chord and then just wait there for a minute, you know. And I don't know if he was processing it too, or he was allowing the audience to process it as well. But, you know, it was something about just how he played, you know. And then it was just the fun and you know, because when you listen to his music, you know, it's just fun.
Right,
You know,
right,
and it's all
right,
hooks. It's
right.
all, you know, very singable melodies, and you know.
Well, he plays the blues a
And
lot.
he
A
plays the
lot.
blues. He plays
Right.
blues and gospel music,
Right.
which was, you know, for me growing up and listening to a whole bunch of styles, but also growing up in the gospel church and all that, like Monk made so much sense to me.
Interesting. Now, but you also mentioned big band recordings. Any thoughts of you doing a big band project?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to be
Right.
doing. You know, big band recordings. I want to do me with strings. You know, I just recently did a project with Gregory Porter, his Nat King Cole and Me album, which was wonderful, with an orchestra, which was amazing, and especially with him, you know, was actually really, really incredible. And the rhythm section was amazing. Ulysses Owens on drums and Reuben Rogers on bass,
Sure.
and it was absolutely incredible. And so that experience was a lot of fun. So I'd eventually want to do that as well.
Okay.
You know? And then we'll see what else happens.
Any other pianists that were early influencing you? Early?
Well, Herbie Hancock, of course. Chucho Valdez was one of my heroes.
Okay.
You know, then of course Art Tatum, Fats Waller, James B. Johnson, Willie Lyon Smith. You know, Aretha Franklin. You know, a lot of people don't mention her as the pianist,
right? Gospel stuff.
Right. You know, Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles. The way they played that music was really just very. They had their own style, which is really, really cool. And then, you know, some classical music, you know, I loved Mozart, of course, you know, but I also loved, later on when I started growing, you know, and I was in college, was a lot of Debussy, a lot of Ravel, but a lot of Eric Satie. I love Eric Satie because he has this dark sound to him, to his compositions, but there's a beauty with it, you know, it's really interesting.
Where did you go to college?
Manhattan School of Music.
Oh, okay. And you said your brother's there now.
Yeah, he's doing his master's there now. He's finishing up.
Okay,
so.
okay. Chris, can we talk you into doing another song for us?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
All right, let's do this.
Okay. What is the song? What was the name of the song we heard first?
Well, that was just a song that I wrote specifically for today. So we can call that Eric in the Afternoon.
Oh, okay. I like that better. I like that better.
You know. Yeah.
Here's some more music from the pianist Christian Sands. selection from Christian Sands there at the piano. Christian, while I was listening to that, especially at the introduction, I thought it reminded me of some hymns, sort of like
Close, because again, growing up in the church, that's all in there.
Right.
But that song, it's called "Reaching for the Sun." That was off of the latest record.
Uh-huh.
And "Reaching for the Sun," really, I wrote it for just the whole idea of "Reach for the Sun" was just reaching for your goals. The sun meaning the goals, and just really trying to get somewhere. And I think everybody can relate to that, whether it's just an immediate goal like, okay, this year I'm going to lose 15 pounds or my goal this year is to, I'm going to make more money than last year, or my goal this year is to love more, So whatever your goal is, you try to reach for it. And so that's what that song is all about, And so the beginning of that is really, I actually wrote that on the Metro North train going from New Haven, Connecticut to New York. And I just had this kind of sound stuck in my head from the tracks, and it's just kind of, and then it kind of turned into that, in the beginning. So the gospelness is of course in there because, you can't get away from it.
Yeah. But the sounds of the railroad tracks have been the foundation for many songs, jazz, blues, boogie woogie.
Exactly.
That's inspired many a musician. And I guess one reason for that is because a lot of musicians, especially in the past, traveled on trains.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. I'm guessing you don't travel a lot on trains.
Yeah,
today you did.
Today
right?
I did.
Right.
Today I did.
Right. Yeah. You've got some title because you're doing an Earl Garner project.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your title and the project.
Okay.
Please.
So I'll tell you about the project. The project is an amazing project because there has been basically an opening of all this Earl Garner music, and which is really, really cool. And the woman, her name is Susan Rosenberg, and she has all this archived music, from boxes. I mean, there's like 600 boxes of just unreleased.
Really?
It's so, this is really, really cool. And Jerry Allen, the late Jerry Allen, was the ambassador of this project, and she brought me on. And before she passed away, and we did a couple shows at a Monterey Jazz Festival, and it was three pianos, myself, Jason Moran, and Jerry Allen, and joining us was Russell Malone, Victor Lewis, and Derek Olis, on bass, and it was absolutely amazing and a lot of fun, and and so what the original Errol Garner project people, if you want to call them. They asked me to come on board and, kind of reach a younger audience, and kind of, tell people about who Errol Garner was and, the importance of his music. Because, as a pianist and a jazz fan, you have to be a fan of Errol Garner because the piano that he was playing was so magnificent. Also for not reading any music.
Right.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
And so with Jerry's passing, unfortunate passing, we still want to keep it going, so they asked me to basically be the artistic ambassador of the Errol Garner project. So now that is my position now, and so now we're doing some concerts coming up, and we just did my trio just did a tribute concert for Errol at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola in New York a few weeks ago, which was amazing. We had a couple singers come in, and we had some special guests and everything, and we had some voices of some old musicians that we had.
Really?
Some interviews and things, like Dr. Billy Taylor or Art Blakey, talking about, Errol Garner. And so it's been a lot of fun. And so we're actually developing some more things. And we just came back from the Disney Hall a couple days ago. I just got back from L.A., so I'm still trying to figure out what time it is,
Yes.
But we came back from L.A., and that was awesome. That was absolutely fun. We played at the Disney Hall with Gerald Clayton and Helen Sung.
That was a Earl Garner.
Yeah, that was an Earl Garner concert.
Tribute.
Tribute to Jerry Allen, but also to Jerry's vision of Earl Garner, which was wonderful.
Right.
And so it's been a lot of fun.
Now you talked about all those boxes of music that's archived. Have you had access to those
I
boxes?
have access, but I haven't seen it yet because my schedule has been so crazy. But I'm actually going next week, so I'm looking forward to hearing all these different, recordings and just there's letters and notes and all this kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to just diving in and seeing what's happening.
I think Jerry produced some of the Earl Garner reissues that came out in the last year or two. Is that something that you may be involved with?
Yes, I'm actually producing their latest record, which will hopefully come out, I think, in June, maybe, possibly. I think we're looking at June or July. And it's called Night Concert, and basically it was a concert that Earl did. If you can picture it, it was in this concert hall, and it was at 12 o'clock at midnight, which, everyone was actually there for I think it was a concert for Beethoven and Haydn and,
Oh, really?
Yes, it was a whole thing. And then after that, Earl's trio was playing, and so everybody stayed there. And, I think they left, 3:30 in the morning and just listened to Earl from 12 to 3 just play.
Really?
And it's
Really?
absolutely amazing because, he's not holding back. He's playing, his fingers off, and the band sounds great. And so I just finished producing that, and so now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of putting it all together and, liner notes and all that kind of stuff. And so now we're going to be releasing it pretty soon.
I also think I remember that the concert you did in L.A., you did some of the Earl's famous Concert by the Sea?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that was Jerry's project was about the Concert by the Sea. So, we did a lot of songs from that record. But now what I'm trying to do with my position now is to expand with all the music that he has and some of the songs that he's never recorded, and so I'm putting together a all-star group at the moment, and we're actually going through all this music. So that's why I'm going next week to go through the music and find.
Where do you have to go to? Where do you have to go?
So in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Where he was from.
Right,
where
exactly. And so I'm going to Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna basically dive into all these crates and boxes and look for things and hear things and read things and kind of get a better sense of who Earl was.
Was the either the concerts you did in Los Angeles, were they documented in any way?
I believe there's a recording of it.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody has it on their cell phone too, so I'm sure it'll
I
wind
meant
up
one
on
that we were going to get legally.
Right, exactly. I'm sure we'll find something.
Okay, right. You have two new projects. One is still in the state of being conceived, and the other one you've already recorded, and it's going to be released as an EP. Only in a digital form. It's not going to be a CD. Too. What's the name of that new project?
So there's no name for it as of yet.
Okay.
Still coming up with that. I think I have a couple days before I finalize the name.
Okay.
But basically, it's some music that I've done throughout my European tour. There's also some recordings that we did that didn't make reach, but we still liked them anyway, and they sounded really good. So we're going to release them, and and a whole bunch of people have been asking for it. So now we're going to actually, give them what they want.
And is there also some live music that's going to be included too?
Yeah, there's going to be live music. I think we're doing one from Amsterdam, maybe. I think we're doing one from Paris. We have a whole bunch of different places. So the audience is going to be different, but it's going to be really, really cool, And I have Jerome Jennings on the drums there, and this one, bass-wise, is with Eric Wheeler on bass.
Okay. In fact, we have a tune from that EP. We have something called J Street.
Yes. J Street, I wrote for Jerome. Unfortunately, Jerome's not the drummer on this recording because he wasn't available. But on the drum, it's Marcus Baylor and Yasushi
He was
Nakamura.
on. They were on Reach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's those guys on the Reach, and basically J Street was for Jazz Street, and I also put some hits in there for Jerome. So Jazz Street or Jerome Street.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what that's about.
Okay. Your manager said it was for Jan Street.
Oh, Jan Street works too. Give me the thumbs up. He's like, there you go.
We've got that tune, J Street. So why don't we take a listen to a bit of that now?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Okay. So we've been hearing a little bit of J Street. As Christian said, that's going to be released in digital form only. It's not going to be a CD that you can buy, which means I guess it's going to be available at the usual places.
Right, yeah, it's going to be available online. It's going to be on iTunes and Tidal and, Spotify, I think, there. So it's going to be available wherever you can reach for it.
Okay, good. Now, tell us a little bit about the project that you're going to be. Let me say this first.
Yeah.
That the digital should be out maybe next month.
Yes.
The digital release should be out next
it's
month.
coming out next month.
Okay, and then you have another release that you're going to start working on soon.
Yes, next month. So I'm going in the studio. Me and the guys are going in the studio, and we're going to record a new record. So we've been traveling and experiencing different things, and so we're going to basically document all the stuff that we've been kind of going through, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're kind of extending the reach, if you want to call it, and we got some good stuff happening, some more grooves for everybody because everybody liked the groove thing. So, we got some more grooves, we got some more fun melodies, we got some great musicians on the record, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're looking for a release in September. You
talked earlier about, in relationship to the Earl Garner project, trying to reach a younger audience. Mm-hmm. Is that happening with your music in general, or are you finding gray-haired folks like me?
Well, the beauty is I'm finding both.
Okay.
The beauty is I'm finding young people that are coming in and really interested in my music and jazz, which is wonderful because, people want to know what it is. Especially the younger generation, they want to know what it is. They just have no idea. Or there's this thing about, I feel like I have to know what jazz is in order to enjoy it. And what I tell people is just go see it. Go see a jazz band at a jazz club.
Sure.
Go see the environment.
Sure.
You might not understand all the notes and all that, but the thing is, you don't have to. All you have to understand is the emotion that goes behind it. Because that's really what it is.
Right.
It's just documenting emotions. And so with that, I get a lot of young folks coming in. I get a lot of, I call them seasoned people. I call it that.
I'm seasoned.
There you go. So I get a lot of that, and it's wonderful because you'll see, I did it when I was in New Orleans. I did a show in New Orleans, and I had a mixture of people there, and one of the, I asked a question, I asked, I like to play love songs and everything like that, and I like to play ballads and everything. So I dedicate them to, the love and all that. And so I always ask people, like, so how long have people been either together or married or something? So you might get people that are like, well, 1 week.
Really?
But then you'll get people that say, okay, we've been together for 40 years, 50 years. So we have a broad range of people, that are there. And so it's wonderful to see the people that have been together for 50 years or 40 years. And then in front of them are the people that have just got together, or this is their first date, or this is their, or they're single, or something like that. Because now we're bringing everybody together, and now there's a big community of just people. So I get a whole bunch of different people all the time.
Do you ever get maybe a couple or an individual that says, this is my song. This is the song that speaks to me.
A lot. I get it a lot. Whether it's a tune that I wrote or a tune that we play. But either way, we always get after the show. We always try to meet everyone after the show too, either by signing CDs or just coming up to them. When we're breaking down the stage and just really, it's all about people. It's all about humanity. So, we usually get a lot of people like, well, I love Reaching for the Sun, or I love Gangsta Dude, or I love, Rainbow People. So we get a lot of that.
When we're not excluding the Earl Garner project, do you play a lot of other people's music?
I do. I mean, I try to play my peers' music when I can, because I think that's important too, because, you talk about Herbie Hancock, people were playing his music, and he was also playing others' music, whether it was, Joe Henderson or Joe Henderson was playing his, or Ahmad Jamal was playing, his songs, like there was all these people that were playing each other's music at the time, and we don't really tend to do that now. So I try to do that as much as possible, and it also just music from my, from my background, whether it's a Temptations song or a Jackson 5 song or, something by Duke Ellington or, just in general, we just have, music.
You know, something, again, going back to Herbie Hancock, something he said to me years ago. He said, when you've really got a successful song, it's when other people are recording your song.
Yeah.
So even in terms of finances,
Right.
it becomes
Right.
more successful when other people are recording.
It
You can
helps.
record it, but when somebody else
right,
is
exactly.
recording.
It helps when
Right.
somebody wants to record your
Right.
tune, which a few people have recorded some either arrangements of mine or some tunes of mine or things like that. So it's actually been pretty good so far, And so we're just hoping to I'm just hoping to continue that lineage, and just have my tunes recorded and others recorded, and we share this together.
Right. Uh-huh. You're on the road and you're about to go, I think, to Europe for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to a whole bunch of different places, but we're doing Europe, China, we're doing Japan eventually, we're doing South America eventually, we're doing a whole bunch of different places, but we're all over the world. So,
Have you been to China or?
I have. I've been to all the only place I have not been is Africa. I haven't been to Africa yet, but basically everywhere else I've been.
Okay.
So that's the next step as well is Africa.
What was the response like in China? I know that for years there's been a huge audience for jazz in Japan.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about the jazz audience
it was
in
funny
China.
because there's a new club opened up in Shanghai there, Lincoln Center. Jazz at Lincoln Center opened up a new club in Shanghai. And so in the beginning, the first weekend, I was there for like 3 weeks, really kind of building the club. And I was there for 3 weeks, and just to make it smaller, the first day there were maybe 7 people, not that many. But by the last day, the last 3 nights were sold out.
Why do you think? Was that word of mouth?
Well, it was
Got
word of
people
mouth,
out?
but also, I'm a people person, so I like to go and talk to people and tell people about it and all this kind of stuff, So I'm like, hey, so, what are you doing tomorrow, And usually they're nothing or work or like, well, after work, come on down to the club and everything. I'm pretty persistent, so. But, people, you hear the word of mouth and you try to get the word out and just tell people, hey, if you want to have a good time. And you don't have to know anything about jazz to enjoy my concert. That's the thing. You just have to like music and just have to want to have a good time. And then those 2 things, you'll have a great time.
When you get a chance to travel like that, do you get a chance to hear music from those places?
I do. I try at least to hear different things from different cultures, and of course those bleed in a little to my writing and to my music.
Sure.
So going to China, going to the markets, and and going around and listening to people, and also just hearing the music, in the streets and all that, or going to Cuba. I just recently came back from Cuba, and late at night hearing. Drums and hearing, people singing and people dancing in streets and everything, So you kind of, like, as you travel, you get to, be around the different types of, or going to Russia and hearing like traditional music from there, So you try to listen to, I try to listen to everything and try to like, okay, well, that's interesting. Or like, well, melodically wise or like melody wise, how are they going for that? Or like, what's the melody of this country, or what's the melody of this culture here?
Okay, now what's the problem? Why haven't you been to Africa yet?
I don't know why. I haven't been there. I have to go. I just want to go anyway, but I want to go and because African music is such a big part of my music anyway, and especially just, I don't know if it's accurate, but I just recently did my Ancestry.com kind of thing.
Oh, you did? So did I.
Right. So I don't know if it's accurate because, they could totally just be like, well, you're this,
Right.
But, they say that, I got back the results and it said Nigerian and Sierra Leonean and so I'm really interested. I mean, because I've always liked the music anyway, but now I'm really interested just to really learn more about, what it is and the sound and kind of really incorporate that, whether it is my background or not. I think the importance of African music to all of our culture. I mean, it's the backbone of all music. So, to really go there and experience it for myself and everything is really, that's on the to-do list.
Have you ever met Abdullah Ibrahim, Dollar Brand?
I have. I have. And we actually played duo piano together, which was crazy. Because really, I mean, I kind of just sat there and just tinkered while he worked, because I was really listening to what he was doing. And it's so amazing, harmony-wise, but also just the feel. It just was incredible. I mean, he has this depth of just emotion that he plays with, that you just have to just sit back and listen to it and just kind of take note, like, okay, that's what that's supposed to sound like.
What made me think about that was because some years ago when I interviewed him, I asked him, I said, so you hear a lot of African retentions. Do you hear a whole lot of African retentions in the music of Duke Ellington and Thelonious Monk? And he said yes, and then he started talking about physical features. And he even, then he said, and you, brother, you look like you're the people of the so-and-so. And I was like,
right. You know, because he'll break things down. But you hear that in his music. Like, he breaks things down to certain regions, and you're just kind of like, wow. I mean, because I don't really know too much about it, but I'm learning about it. You know, I'm trying to do my research, and I'm trying to read. But also, once you go, that's the experience you get when you go is something totally different. You know?
Well, I went to Morocco years ago, and there was so much music from all over Africa just being played on the streets. You'd hear musicians and someone tell you, well, they're from so-and-so. And you hear musicians here, and they would tell you, you know, something similar about this. These are musicians from such a country. And you hear, watch dancers and, you know, just music from all over the place. In just in Morocco, that's what I was hearing.
Right. You know, and so it's just an amazing thing to kind of, you know, I mean, when you take African music, and no matter where you go, you know, whether it's you go to Trinidad or you go to Cuba, or you go to Dominican Republic, wherever Africans were, there's a certain thing that's still there. There's certain drums and, you know, the certain rhythms and all that kind of stuff, you know. And so you hear the music and you see what they've done with it, you know. Like I did a project with the trumpet player Etienne Charles. And he's doing I don't even know when this record is coming out, but I'm so excited about it. It's about the carnival. And we're playing on it, and he's got all these different people, and he has a group that's playing bamboo, like bamboo sticks. And it's like, you know, and I mean, when you hear that, when you hear all these people, it's about 6 people playing bamboo sticks, and they're just playing the rhythm and the different parts and all this kind of stuff, you know, and it's directly from Africa, you know. It's really amazing, you know, and when you also listen to African music, you do hear jazz, you do hear the community in it, you do hear the call and response, you do hear, you know, besides the rhythm, just also just melody, you do hear harmony, you do hear, you know, community, you hear all that within jazz. So really, you know, jazz is a direct link. I mean, as we know from African music, but it's so close to it.
Right. You know, my brother once heard an interview with Abdullah Ibrahim on the radio, and the interviewer asked him, when did jazz leave? When did jazz get to Africa? And Abdullah said the question should be, when did jazz leave Africa?
Right, that's really the question. So that's the goal. That's the whole goal of what I do, is try to bring love. Because when you hear African music, or I mean any music really, you know, you hear this relationship between culture and people and the music, you know. And so I think, you know, some of jazz has gotten away from it, but some is still there. And, you know, so my whole thing is to document what people are going through, what the culture is, and what people are, you know, trying to say.
Christian, I think we've talked for a while. Would you like to give us another song?
Yeah. I'll play a song that I wrote for everyone. This is called Song of the Rainbow People.
Okay, great. We're going to hear some more music right now from Christian Sands. So, let's hear it for Christian. music right there from Christian Sands. Christian Sands. Thank you very much, Christian Sands, for playing for us. Just want to let everybody know that on April the 13th, Christian will be appearing with his band at Scullers in the Doubletree Hotel. So you can get out to see him live on his next appearance here in Boston. So we thank also the Boston Public Library for the use of this facility. And I would also like to invite all of you to tune into my show, which airs on 89.7 FM, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights from 9 p.m. until midnight. And of course, if you want to hear some music, we have the Jazz Stream, Jazz 24/7 from WGBH, which is online anytime. You can listen to it online. You can use the new WGBH app too. And with that, I would just like to say to all of you, thank you very much for joining us.